certificates, followed by people.
And then one more lecture, yours, or, yeah.
And then 1:30 you have guests. If you still have energy, I'll continue after that. The last session.
Okay, good morning and welcome to the final day of the course and my last lecture. Before I start, I want to thank Dr. Raghavendra, Dr. Narasimhan, and other organizers of the course, NITK. It's been a great pleasure to come here and enjoy your company. The discussions we have had with you have been very nice. I also thank the other speakers, Dr. Shamlal and Dr. Deepu. Their presentations, including those of Dr. Raghavendra and Dr. Narasimhan, helped me recollect some of the previous material I had studied long ago in linear algebra, but also deep learning and CNN. Previously I had some opinion, I had read some articles, I had made some opinions. Now I got a little better understanding of what is happening. I hope you also made the connection between the mathematics we saw, representation of images and convolution as matrix operations, and what Dr. Shamlal showed in his lecture on CNNs, how the CNN matrix is arranged to perform convolution. It's essentially the same thing. So that gives me the understanding that CNN could be seen as a method of implementation of convolution. Now I have expressed some of my personal opinions. Those you take with your own judgment, a pinch of salt as we say. So you have to take these opinions and then form your own opinion. So what I say is not the final thing. There are many other opinions, preferences. So I have said certain things about the way I would like to see things implemented, where you are able to explain what is happening. CNN and deep learning, they are moving in that direction, explicable methods. Previously they were not. So things are evolving and changing, and so are these methods, the final methods that I'll talk about today to close this whole series of lectures. So again, it's been a great pleasure meeting you, and I hope you the typical term used is enjoyed. I don't want to say enjoy the lectures and seminars, but I hope you found them beneficial, and I hope you will find them beneficial further in your work. So in the title of the course, I added medical informatics and radiomics. Previously, I was simply saying digital image processing, computer-aided diagnosis. So now, for the first time, I added these terms. So I felt it is appropriate to discuss what is meant by them. The underlying concepts, techniques are the same: digital image processing, pattern recognition. But there are a few intricacies and fine details that we need to pay attention to. So what is the final goal of all of this? Personalized medicine. This is a rather new concept. Perhaps over the past 5-6 years it has developed, and it is still developing. So the aim of all of this is personalized medicine. So we have looked at computer-aided diagnosis, or CAD. What is that? We want quantitative and objective analysis of biomedical images via the application of computational procedures. In general, computers. The logic of medical or clinical diagnosis via analysis of biomedical images and data, signals and so on, can be objectively encoded and consistently applied in routine or repetitive tasks. This is what we want to do, and this is where we want to go, we are going, and that's the benefit: quantitative, objective, and so on. So the aim of CAD is computerized analysis of biomedical images, and that should be for computer-aided, computer-assisted, and not automated diagnosis. That's again my personal opinion and that of several other researchers. Where it goes, it depends on where the society goes. So what is this? Computer-aided analysis of biomedical signals and images, my main topics of research and teaching for many years, for 4 decades perhaps. application of computational procedures including digital signal processing, digital image processing, pattern recognition methods to enhance biomedical signals and images, filter, enhance, segment and characterize regions of interest, identify normal patterns and structures, detect abnormal features and diseases for computer-aided diagnosis. So this is the classification part. So note again, aided or assisted and not automated. So that is a mouthful to say. The easy way to say is AI, but everything has become AI. You touch a computer, oh, AI. So note that my lectures don't have those words, AI, DL, and so on. Even machine learning. I would like to have terminology very specific. What kind of a machine is it? What is it learning? So if you say digital signal processing, digital image processing, pattern recognition, pattern classification, no doubt as to what is being done. Very specific, and as engineers we should use specific and clear and precise terminology. So what are the essentials of engineering to be incorporated into CAD from the engineering perspective, not just computational? Scientific investigation and analysis, all scientists do that. Analysis. Quantitative and objective analysis, mathematical modeling, optimal design of components, systems, and processes. Now moving to engineering, in engineering we do more of synthesis. We do analysis, but then we do synthesis. So what I said is engineers create new things that did not exist before. How do you do that? By synthesis. We need to know all of this. And from there, or through all these steps, we come to synthesis of multidisciplinary principles and methodologies. Multidisciplinary is again important, and I'll emphasize that again. And then some more concepts specific to engineering, project management, efficient solutions to practical problems. We address practical problems, not some hypothetical issue that is floating in the sky. Real down-to-earth problems, and go and understand them, solve them for some practical good to the society. Innovation and creativity. So these are important in engineering. Create something new. And that is where engineers are different from scientists. Not to put scientists down. We are building on what scientists have done before, and we are also scientists. So the field of biomedical engineering, as I said, some 40, 50 years ago, there was no BME, and it was new when I started my thesis work at IISc in Bangalore in 1976. It has moved a lot from pure engineering from the early part of the previous century to what has been done over the past 50, 60, 70 years. From building bridges to implanting artificial ligaments, my colleagues in Calgary in civil engineering have developed artificial ligaments that could be implanted in the knee joint. That's like a bridge. From electrical power plants to cardiac pacemakers that power the heart and run the heart. From railway engines to prosthetic limbs, machines that are controlled by the subject. From chemical and petroleum plants to artificial tissues and organs, tissue engineering. From computers to lab on a chip and control systems to manage diabetes and other diseases. So there are these insulin pumps that are controlled by measuring sugar through another device. And one of my colleagues in Calgary developed what he called an e-mosquito that would take a small blood sample every so many hours and keep monitoring blood sugar. From communication and control systems to CAD. So these are the basic engineering principles that have led to these biomedical applications. So clearly, there is an engineering component or ingredient in all of these. And if you step back and see what those same things relate to previously, you see the original engineering application. We require a broad background to get into biomedical engineering. We do all the physics, chemistry, math, statistics, and so on. We had only PCM, later on PCMB came, I don't know what it is now. But we also need to have some understanding of biology, anatomy, physiology, pathology, biochemistry. Material science is part of engineering. Sensors and instrumentation, we are getting into electrical, electronics, principles of engineering in general, knowledge of medical diagnosis and therapy by collaboration. You can read books. I read several of these books, but in collaborating and talking with the medical experts, we get to know more about this practical. Information processing and analysis, signals, images, data of any kind. What are the subject areas contributing to CAD? Not only engineering. I'll put biomedical engineering first, but medical physics comes equally there. Diagnostic medical imaging and radiology, DSP, DIP, biomedical signal image analysis. I can't leave out my areas. Statistical analysis and pattern recognition. So we need statistics. Computer vision, computer and software engineering, ICT, or information and communication technology, control systems, and diagnostic decision making. So these are all different subject areas, and each one could be a separate field of study by itself. There are degrees in some of these separately. The main steps of CAD we have seen. How do we approach CAD? We first filter or pre-process the given signals or images. We detect and segment regions of interest, extract features for quantitative analysis, select the best set of features, so we reduce the dimensionality of the feature set. Training of classifiers and development of decision rules, that is pattern recognition, pattern classification. That's what leads to diagnostic decision making. Of course, all of that is given to the medical specialist. I don't go and do that with the patient. So why use CAD is an important question. Manual analysis of medical or visual analysis of medical images, even by expert, is susceptible to some types of errors. And even for us, when we do manual analysis of anything, not only medical images, intra-observer errors or inconsistencies, inter-observer errors or inconsistencies, and some limitations of manual analysis. What are intra-observer? The same person, same observer, could be inconsistent in the application of knowledge. My interpretation could be different over time, today, tomorrow, next year, for the same input. Subjective and qualitative nature of analysis, that is the root cause of these issues. If you're subjective, just giving an opinion, oh, this is long, this is short, this is light, this is dark, that is subjective and qualitative. Environmental effects and distraction. You are sitting and analyzing, something happens, some noise, and a radiologist is looking at all these mammograms and something happens, turn around, come back. You have lost that concentration. You were already concentrating on something, and then you're distracted. And especially when it is a repetitive task. Fatigue develops when you have to analyze 200 cases in 3 hours in an afternoon setting. Each case having, as I said, 4 plus maybe 4 more, 8 or 12 images, mammograms. That's a lot to analyze, hundreds of them. So repetitive task and workload is heavy, and fatigue develops. And then the efficiency goes down. Not only for radiologists, for anybody, for any of us. Inter-observer, between us. You do something, I do something else, perhaps. Inconsistencies in knowledge and training. You were trained somewhere else, I was trained somewhere else. So there is some difference. Subjective and qualitative again. Differences in opinion and preferences. So you have certain preferences, you have certain thresholds to call something benign or malignant, true or false, fake or real. You have some threshold always. Your threshold is different from mine. Limitations of manual analysis, inconsistencies in identifying landmarks in images, coming specifically to medical image processing. Errors in landmark locations due to limited dexterity. I need to point something, but my finger is this big. I need to mark something, but my chalk or pen is that thick. I can't go down to millimeter, micrometer accuracy. Extensive time and effort required for manual marking and measurement of intricate details. So you need to go and measure. It takes time and effort. Limitations in the precision and reproducibility of manual measurements and calculations. There could be some errors and in precision and also reproducibility. You may say 3.1 millimeter now, but later on you will say 3 millimeters or 3.2 or something. Again, all of that relates to subjective and qualitative nature of manual analysis. This is all just talking, so I'm going a little fast. Okay? Is that clear? And you have a copy of this. So what are the benefits of CAD? Consistent application of established rules and methods. And these rules and methods are established in consultation and collaboration with the medical specialist who is going to use, the end user. Objective and quantitative analysis, the opposite of qualitative, subjective. We are doing objective and quantitative. Numbers, everything should be numbers. Objective meaning there must be some rule, some methodology, some mathematical principles involved. It is not just throwing numbers out. There must be an underlying model, principle, methodology that is sound. Numerical precision, accuracy, and speed of computation. But we should be careful. The computer may give you 32-bit accuracy, but you don't want to give 32-bit accuracy to the user. It may not be meaningful. So you will say it is 5.2 millimeters, not 5.2, 3, 4, 9, 10, and so on. You don't do that. Ease of repeatability and reproducibility. Run it again, you get the same thing for the same data. Immunity to the effects of work environment, fatigue, and boredom. But the computer doesn't care, keep throwing data and you get output. Can process hundreds of images offline also. Need not be online. So the CAD way to improve medical diagnosis, I prepared this chart telling you want to move from this via that to that. So qualitative analysis to quantitative analysis via computation of measures, features, attributes using image processing techniques. Subjective to objective development of rules for diagnostic decision using pattern classification techniques. Consistent to consistent analysis by implementation of established rules and robust procedures as computational algorithms. And from having inter-observer and intra-observer errors to improve diagnostic accuracy by medical image analysis, medical informatics, CAD, and all of these things we are talking about. So this is what we are designing and developing to go from all of these to all of those. But there are limitations of CAD. All of our efforts have some practical limitations, or they face practical issues. Difficulty in translating methods of visual analysis into computational procedures. The radiologist describes, oh, this is rough, this is speculated. It takes us months to years to understand that and to translate that into a computational procedure. The radiologist said these spicules and this and so on. And that became a master's thesis eventually. So it takes a few months. We cannot do it overnight. Understanding that and translating that into an algorithm that works with some efficiency, at least 75%. Difficulty in translating clinical observations into numerical features. Again, what is smooth, what is microlobulated, how do you convert them to shape factors? Difficulty in dealing with large numbers of features in a classification rule, what is called the curse of dimensionality in pattern classification. You don't want 10,000 features. Classification becomes difficult and inefficient. Maybe 100, okay, but can you reduce to 10? So you can manage the procedures well, get the most efficient combination of a small number of features. Small, depending upon the application, not one, could be 5, could be 10, could be 100 sometimes, but not hundreds and thousands. You may start with hundreds of measurements, but shrink it down by appropriate methods of feature selection and dimension reduction. Substantial requirements of computational resources. I'm not concerned about that. They ask, well, how much time did it take? But computers have been getting faster and faster and faster. So what took a supercomputer when Dr. Chowdhury was working on those collagen fiber images, we needed a vector supercomputer. Now you can do on your little sum computer easily. So that's not a big issue. But annotated clinical databases, we heard that from our other speakers also, Dr. Shamlal mentioned, that just having data is not the thing. They must be annotated. I think Dr. Deepu also mentioned that. If they're not annotated, they cannot be used for training. There is unsupervised, yes, but there are difficulties, there are limitations. So it is good to have annotated clinical databases, but as I've mentioned a few times, radiologists don't sit in the clinic drawing boundaries of tumors and calcifications or the hip bone and something else. Now they look at it and say, this is the situation. So this requires a lot of effort on part of the radiologist or medical specialist. If I do it and write a paper, no, that won't fly. I could do it and get it verified by the ophthalmologist or radiologist. Then it says it's some kind of a consensus or training, and that may be acceptable. But there must be the involvement of the medical specialist. In the end, we face large numbers of false alarms or false positives. They will be there. We need to reduce by including further methods for better feature extraction and classification. And that leads to increased recall rate. That is, if you give a false alarm and say there is something suspicious in this patient's mammogram, the subject is asked to come back and more tests and all that. That is called recall. You're asking the person to come back for more tests. That causes anxiety, costs, and various issues. As I mentioned earlier, mammography by itself, before CAD, mammography by itself was the cause of concern of increased recall rate. A number of women who went to the screening program to get mammograms taken were called for additional tests because the mammograms were not of good quality. And not many radiologists were trained in the interpretation that was considered to be the most difficult in radiology. That is why we started to work on that topic. So women were concerned that, I go there and mammograms are taken, they will ask me to go back, do biopsy, do this, that, and I don't want. So if you have an assurance that our sensitivity is high, we will catch cancer with a high accuracy, and our specificity is high, that is, normals are called normals with high accuracy. Both must be high. If I call everybody as having cancer and send them to more tests, the lab will make money, but the patient will not be happy. If I send everybody back home telling you're normal, then some of them will develop cancer and the effects of those diseases, and things get worse. So a good balance is required, but we must have high sensitivity and specificity. That is difficult. And difficulty in integrating CAD systems into established clinical workflows and protocols. The radiologist is already doing something, has been doing that for 10, 20, 30 years. The screening program has been running for 10, 20, 30 years. And now I want to go and stick my computer in. There's no place, and the protocol is established. You can't change that because it's established by the Cancer Board, and they have gone through many other studies. So it is difficult. Even if the radiologist wants it, how do you do that? Not that there is no space to stick a computer and a monitor. There is space. But previously, they were looking at films. There were no computers. Now they're all looking at computers. So I'll put another monitor there. So it has become easier and feasible now. Further limitations. A physician or medical specialist typically uses several items of information in addition to images and measurements. Images are used, yes. They also make some measurements using a ruler or something, a finger, whatever. Results of clinical and lab tests, physical and mental state of the patient, family history, socioeconomic factors. How is the patient appearing? Many of which are not amenable to quantification and rule-based processes. These are done through expertise of the medical professional. Okay? You can't put a number and say, I'll put that into a pattern classifier, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. You may put some textual description. So there are some methods to integrate text-based descriptors and numerical descriptors. But they are not easy, and perhaps not possible in some cases. So what we should recognize is biomedical signals and images are, at best, when they are perfect, indirect indicators of the state of the patient. They are not direct indicators. They are showing the manifestation of the effect of disease on that organ or system. They are not direct indicators like if you take tissue sample or blood sample. They would be direct indicators or biomarkers. These are indirect. The results of image analysis need to be integrated with other clinical signs, symptoms, results of lab tests, and non-medical information by a physician. I'm repeating some of these things, but I think it is important to drive that point home. So the general background knowledge, expertise, experience, and intuition of the medical specialist play important roles in arriving at the final diagnosis. Most of us would agree with background knowledge. Yes, they have to pass MD. Expertise, yeah, they must have the expertise, experience. We don't want to go to a new doctor. In Kannada, it is said, ಹೊಸ ವೈದ್ಯರಿಗಿಂತ ಹಳೆಯ ರೋಗಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದು ಅಂತ. Meaning, an old patient having had experience with the disease can give you better information than a new doctor. And that's a light saying in Kannada. But of course, new doctors before they are licensed would have gone through training and they know things. Now this is where I'm coming to some personal observations, and I have talked about this with my medical colleagues too. So let me go back here. Intuition. Intuition is something that cannot be quantified. The expert or you, when you're dealing with other engineering issues, will come up with some decision or some procedure, but you cannot explain it. It's intuitive. You didn't derive it mathematically, but there is a gut feeling as I say, okay, I think this works. This is the situation. Without being able to explain that and prove it. Scientifically, that is not sound. We said earlier you should be able to explain everything and there must be an underlying procedure. Intuition is not that, but still it plays a role. And I have again talked to my colleagues and they agree. Yes, there is, intuition does play a part, although it cannot be explained. Perhaps a minor role. But how do you take all of this information and come up with diagnosis rapidly? There is something else that is happening, which is hard to explain and quantify and put in a computer program. So I have included this. I thought of removing it, but I have had some discussions and we will leave it there for now. Now, to the professional aspect and legal issues. Keeping in mind the realms of practice of various licensed and regulated professions. In Alberta, in Canada, in many states and countries, you have to have a certain degree. To practice engineering, you must have engineering degree. To practice medicine, you must have MD. To practice law, you must have LLB or whatever the degree is called. And then professional practice and licensing. You have to write some ethics and practice exams and about the bylaws and whatnot that govern the profession. And then you are liable. If something goes wrong, you are liable. So there is liability. So I'm licensed. I'm a PEng, professional engineer. I have a stamp. If I design something in my area, of course, I'm not going to design a bridge and stamp it. I can't do that. PEng doesn't say what kind of engineer. But if I go and design a bridge and put my stamp on it, no, I'll be in trouble. Similarly, I cannot go and give diagnosis, medical diagnosis. So I cannot claim my computer is giving this diagnosis. My computer is better than the medical specialist. No, that is wrong. And legal factors. Who is taking the responsibility for the final decision? It is the physician, the radiologist, the doctor, and so on. They are licensed. They have some insurance for liability. And the patient will go there. The patient won't come to the person who wrote the computer program. Cannot do that. If you make a measurement using a ruler, you are still making the decision. If something goes wrong, one cannot go and sue the person who made that ruler unless that ruler had some inaccuracy and simply said, this is 1 meter. That doesn't happen. The final diagnostic decision and communication with the patient in particular are best left to the clinician, physician, or medical specialist. So we won't step into that. What we expect is quantitative and objective analysis facilitated by the application of biomedical image analysis, medical informatics, CAD, and so on, could lead to improved diagnostic decision by the physician and improved healthcare for the patient. Not simply increase the efficiency, but the patient should see some benefit from that. That is the expectation. So going back to AI, is CAD AI? The answer is already, I have said no. But CAD incorporates and encodes and encapsulates, this is our statement, the collective and collaborative intelligence and expertise of professionals from multiple disciplines. Mine, my students, they're all engineers. The medical specialists, their associates. There are a number of people, if you look at the co-authors of my papers, there's a long list, at least 5, 6, sometimes more. So they're all professionals. All of them have put their intelligence into this. Radiology and diagnostic, medical imaging, engineering, computer science, physics, chemistry, math, biology, everything. So this is natural, not artificial. I want to argue against those terms. Natural human collaborative endeavor, not some computational machine doing something. Yes, we programmed it, but it is ours. So the intelligence is mine, yours, our collaborators, collective, collaborative. And the label artificial, I would say, is demeaning, it's insulting in such a setup. So we should recognize, admire, and respect the contributing professionals and their subject areas. So if I talk with the radiologist and learn all of these things that I've shown you, and then run away and say it is artificial, that's not right. So CAD is not AI. If you want, you can call something else as AI. So the terminology of AI may not appeal and may not be accepted by patients and the general public in the medical setting. I don't want artificial sugar. Does anybody want that? Unless there is a medical issue. In the regular situation, you don't want substitutes. You don't want chemicals in your food. Right? You don't want artificial flavors. I want the real stuff. I want real kesari. If they say I put kesari equivalent color, I'll send it back. I don't want that. So, artificial will not be accepted in food. In medicine, perhaps, when you go and get your diagnosis done and some treatment is being given to you, you want a real qualified person doing it. So in the medical setting, this terminology perhaps is not suitable and may not be, I would say, will not be accepted by patients and the general public. But CAD is developing. These are all developing fields. They've been around for some time. But there are things beyond CAD. We can do a lot more. Several areas of application of computers in medicine exist beyond CAD in the quest to improve healthcare. So towards personalized medicine, you have computer-aided so many things. I mentioned therapy and how the information from those Gaussian mixture models of tumors could help in surgery and planning for surgery, how detecting the spine could help in planning radiation therapy. The analysis of response to therapy, we saw those ligaments, those are sort of biomedical. It's not medical, there's from rabbits and so on, but the models apply, they can be extended. That's why those animal models are chosen. So response to therapy, which treatment is the best in terms of getting collagen alignment back soon? Prognosis, we haven't done that. Prognosis is what is going to happen with the patient next after this. That is an important step. It is coming, but we are not there yet. Patient management, clinical management, I'll leave that out. That's how you run your clinic and how computers could be used there. Treatment protocol, again, therapy, it is a protocol. So computer-aided analysis of all of these could lead to computer-aided treatment protocols being developed, and finally, computer-aided personalized medicine and preventive, or some people say, Americans say preventative healthcare. So, personalized medicine, that includes diagnosis and treatment. Preventative healthcare, this is healthcare to say, okay, this has happened, we don't want this to happen again. How do we prevent that? For that, you need to know the prognosis. Where is this patient going in the next few years? And how do we stop any bad things, disease coming back later. These lead towards personalized medicine, but that's not all. We need informatics. Now, informatics, we have a few different types of informatics names and terminology in biology and medicine. Bioinformatics deals with the application of biology, physics, chemistry, math, statistics, and now I'll put computer engineering. Some will say computer science, some will say data processing. Let's call it computer engineering, to analyze and interpret biological data about genomes, physiomes, and this and that. Maybe only biological, not health related directly. Could be related to farms, animals, and so on. Agriculture. When you say biomedical, you're getting into medicine and healthcare, but there could be some bio component that might not be directly related to human beings, like the collagen from rabbits and so on. So there is a bit of something else that is not exactly directly related to radiology, medical physics, and human data. Finally, medical informatics, bringing medical sciences and computer engineering. Again, some will say computer science and data science and so on, together for improved healthcare and outcome for the patient. So again, healthcare should be improved, but how do you define it? It's not the physician making more money or the lab making more money, but the better outcome for the patient. Now, when you get all of these different types of data, or observations or measurements from images, signals, lab tests, and this and that, put them all together, then there is a package that's nowadays called a digital twin of the patient. All of my information, not my picture, but all of my biomedical information stored in some specific format that could help in all of those computer-aided, that long list. So a package of data related to the specific patient. We talked earlier about landmarking, atlas-based, and so on. Atlas is for the whole population. You could subdivide to female, male, age groups, and ethnic groups, and geographical groups, but still groups. Then we said we want to landmark the specific patient of specific image of that particular patient and get measures of Hounsfield units of the spinal canal or whatever for that specific patient. So here, these are of the specific patient, not a general model, obtained using various biomedical sources of information, images, lab data, whatnot. It's referred to as a digital twin of the patient. A digital twin of a patient may be constructed to represent the patient's entire body or a specific organ, system, or structure. Could be very particular, not the whole body. You may not be interested in the whole body, just those parts that are having some issue. So the digital twin model may be expanded to incorporate external factors, including the environment and interactions of the specific patient. As I said, this presentation is only text and storytelling. I prepared most of this over the last 3-4 days, so I'm checking for any errors in typing or composition. But some of these were in my other presentations on biomedical engineering and CAD and so on. So I have pulled them. I have added some new material which appears in the discussion in our new books. Incorporation of patient-specific information could improve the design and development of personalized healthcare for that person and therapeutic recommendations for the individual patient. So that is how you are moving towards personalized medicine, not simply what the textbooks say. So what is personalized medicine? It is defined as healthcare that is informed and guided based upon an individual patient's unique clinical, genetic, genomic, and environmental information, not just images and signals. Personalized medicine has been focused on an underlying knowledge of normal physiology of the patient as well as pathology based on the what is called omics to facilitate preventive healthcare and strategies to guide therapy. So what are the omics? The omics are areas such as genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, and so on. All these omics. So these give you measures and data related to the patient, but through other tests. You cannot get these from signals and images. So the goal of personalized medicine is to optimize healthcare and the ensuing results for each patient. You are customizing patient care. Previously, we would get our clothes stitched by the tailor and specific measurements. Nowadays, we just go by and say medium, large, extra large, whatever, 36, 40, 42, some number. And sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't. And we just live with it. So now we want customization tailored to the specific patient so the patient can get better care. There are multidisciplinary approaches required here. One of the papers I read mentioned this, and I was happy to read this. The requirement of multidisciplinary approaches to diagnosis and delivery of healthcare to achieve the stated goal of personalized medicine has been emphasized. It cannot be done just by medical specialists or this or that or that. We need all of them, with particular attention not only to the omics, but also to biomedical sensors, instrumentation, data analysis, computational methods, informatics, and diagnostic support systems. That is what all of us do. Electronics, DSP, DIP, all of that. Okay? So this has been written by somebody else, not mine. So with the inclusion of a broad array of multidisciplinary techniques, biomedical signal image analysis, now I'm talking here, can make important contributions towards the realization of personalized medicine. This is one piece among all of this. Not the only thing. So what is radiomics? There is confusion in the literature. To emphasize the role of features and measures derived from radiological or medical images in diagnosis and therapy, the term radiomics has been introduced. Again, this is our interpretation, to emphasize radiological input, but that's not everything. So radiomics is radiology and all the omics. It is not radionics, it's not radiology and electronics. It is not radiotics with informatics and radiology, it is radiomics with the omics, ending with OMIC. Because radio comes first, it is radiology. That's the main factor, all right, no problem. And that's where we do our business of medical image processing. But how do you go from radiology to radiomics? The intent with this terminology is to promote the combined use of quantitative information derived from medical images and the various omics fields. Not only in diagnosis, we're not stopping there, you shouldn't stop there, but therapy, follow-up, prognosis, preventive medicine, and extended healthcare, of course, personalized, customized, we already saw that. That's included. I didn't want to include all of those terms. So in discussions with my clinical collaborators, I asked these questions, what is radiomics? And I read some papers, and some papers simply said, oh, I'm computing 1,000 features, it is radiomics from medical images. That's not it. I can compute 10,000 features. That's not radiomics. Some have said so, and some definitions have said so. If you extract a large number of parameters from medical images, that is called radiomics. That is not correct. And we have done all these classification you saw with the vertebral compression fracture. Dr. Marcelo Noguera Barbosa, he is a radiologist in that team. So we asked him, oh, you're putting your input, you're doing some classification, and we are putting all these features. Is this radiomics? He said, no. He said, that is not radiomics. There must be these factors. What is the effect of therapy? Did you design therapy using this? What is the effect? Follow-up. What is the prognosis? Can you predict what will happen next? And can you help in preventing and extending the health care? That we haven't done. There are bits and pieces sort of pointing in that direction. The possibility of doing those. But we haven't done. There are very few studies on this. As I said, many papers simply say that tag is determined by the number of features, which is not correct. And only diagnosis, that is not correct. How much has been done with all of this? Very few. I'm still searching for good papers that actually demonstrate all of these. So it's left for you. Earlier I said, the next generation should always be better than the previous one. That I also corrected myself and said, it doesn't mean we are greater than our teachers. It simply means we are adding to the knowledge base, and the field is growing and developing. We are contributing, and so should you, the next generation, and the next to that. And some could be better than those who have passed before that. But they have contributed to that, to the base. So I think it is Newton who said, I can see further because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So there have been others, and we are standing on top of them or their knowledge base that they developed, and then we can do more. We cannot claim to be better than them. We couldn't have done this without their input. Without Professor I.S. and Murthy's courses on biomedical signal analysis, biocontrol, and various other instrumentation that he taught us, we wouldn't be here doing this kind of material. So radiomics as a field of study is what is being emphasized too. It is also, this terminology is intended to establish and promote a corresponding formal field of study. When you put a name, like physics, chemistry, mathematics, and so on, you're identifying an area of study, a subject area. An investigation of various biomedical measurements, attributes, and features derived from various sources of information. So radiomics is here, but there are still a few challenges. It's a new and developing area. Confusion exists in its definition, practical application, and interpretation. Practical application is made difficult by the lack of data as well as models and procedures for implementation. How do you get all of these prognosis and extended healthcare? We don't have such information. To build such databases or even examples and models will take some time. But it'll come. It's here. It's coming. And how do we put it into clinical practice is another question. And there have been all of these. We know CAD, we know computer-aided surgery, it's here. Content-based image retrieval, the hospital and radiology information system, picture archival and communication systems, DICOM standards, digital imaging and communications in medicine, database management systems. All of them are known now. Electronic health record is coming. It's here. HL7 is a new international standard, new meaning in the past 5-6 years, maybe 10. ISO, we know it's been around, the International Standards Organization, but now they are getting into this, HL7. Open Systems Interconnection, that is another standard that will facilitate this. So how do we put all of this together in the hospital? There are some practical issues, but it'll be done. There are standards being developed to help in this process, to realize this. And now we put in radiomics and digital twins. Those are relatively new concepts that have come up. So add all of these. So this is the general story. I have a couple of small illustrations. We talk about data, and I have a lot of data. And our other speakers, Dr. Shamlal and Dr. Deepu, also talked about gathering data. Just by having data, it doesn't mean much. So we first, anyway, in the stage of learning, we first collect data, observations, lectures. We attend lectures, take books, read. We take these objects, make measurements, and we process them. Just data processing. So we get measurements, features, attributes, descriptors, like feature extraction from images. We'll come one level up in this process. Then, as I have mentioned earlier, we need to distinguish between processing and analysis. You process a number of measurements, values, 1 plus 2 plus 3, 6, take the average, divide by something, 3, and you get 2. You got another number. So what does it mean? You need to analyze that. So you need to have some skills of analysis and interpretation, and then you got some information. So distinguish between data, measures, and information. This is just the input. Now you have some information about which you can talk. And we need to understand that comprehension is necessary. Just having the information doesn't help. So with comprehension, we develop some knowledge. Then we can say, okay, now I know something about this. Sometimes I make fun with my students, but sometimes either the joke doesn't go or they don't like it. When I was teaching signal analysis, a second-year course, I had 140 students, and I decided to write on the board. I could have done this. I have done this in signal processing, image processing, but second day I thought I should write on the board, like what Dr. Narasimhan did and Dr. Raghavendra did. I wrote on the board, and I said, you must write it. Writing is a part of the process of learning and perhaps will help you remember. The students didn't like that. They started taking pictures with their cell phones. So I would write this and then click, click, click. So I told them, well, you have taken the picture. If you want, I can stand and smile, or I'll walk out and you can take a picture, all right, no problem. But if you take a picture, it's in the memory of your cell phone. How do you transfer to your memory? You don't have a USB connector here, unfortunately, yet. It'll come. It may come, I hope. Yes or no, I don't know. How do you transfer from there to here? So you have to read and understand. Anyway, some of these things may not fly well with undergrad students. That's why I like grad students more. They will understand them. So knowledge comes with analysis and comprehension. Now the next level, before we can go to intelligence, artificial or real, artificial perhaps will not go that high, is design, synthesis, innovation, experience. So as engineers, we design things, create new systems. Synthesis, we put many ideas together. Innovation, there has to be something new. Otherwise, you can't write your paper, you don't have a product to sell or just to show. And experience, you must have some field experience in that area. Otherwise, you would be called a novice, and people may not have much confidence in what you're showing. That leads to creativity, intelligence, and expertise. So intelligence is at the top. From data, you can just acquire. I can buy 100 books. That doesn't help me. Okay? So there are different depictions of this pyramid as to how you go from data to measurements to knowledge, but I added these as to what are the steps necessary to go from one level of this pyramid to the next. But it's a never-ending path, like all studies. When you get your BTech, MTech, PhD, you say you're done, but there is a lot more. This was in one of the greeting cards for graduation. It goes on. If you stop there, that's okay, but there is a lot more. So what do we want to achieve? We are talking about engineering for improved healthcare. I use engineering as a verb also. Engineering improved healthcare. That's what we want to do. We want to take all of our engineering principles and knowledge and experience and expertise and put it for improving healthcare and social benefits. So this gives us opportunities to learn new areas of application of engineering. Relatively new. It's been established biomedical, but there are newer and newer areas of applications and problems to be solved. Collaborate with professionals in other fields of research and investigation, so we learn more of other areas, subject areas, other types of problems, how to address those problems. Contribute to a field with significant applications and benefit to the public, so we can put our knowledge to benefit of others, the general public, in terms of healthcare and well-being. Develop multidisciplinary perspectives and problem-solving skills, so we also learn in that process. So nowadays, this is emphasized. Previously, scientists were known to just sit in the lab and keep doing some experiments, chemists in particular, or the mathematicians sitting and working with equations alone in a lab or office. That is not the case anymore. We need groups of scientists and researchers from multiple fields coming together to solve a real problem in the real world that you may not even encounter or know about if you just sit in your lab or office and work with pencil and paper. That's fine. We need all of that. But in order to achieve something like improved healthcare, we need this collaborative and multidisciplinary approach and perspective. So we could contribute to healthcare and well-being of people. So Paulo and Marcelo are my collaborators in Brazil. We have talked a lot about radiomics as to what is it and where is it going. We started our collaboration many years ago, 25 years ago, starting with processing mammograms, detecting this and that, pectoral muscle, breast boundary, nipple, and all of that. And then suddenly this radiomics came up. I said, well, what is this? And then we had more discussions as to what exactly we want to do next. So that is what has contributed to this presentation. And also my collaborators at the University of Sao Paulo, many others, Manitoba and Calgary, especially the medical researchers have contributed to this understanding and all of these notes. So you have seen my website and you have my email. You are most welcome to write to me. 10:32. So thank you very much for your attention, and wish you all the best in your research work and career. Now over to Dr. Raghavendra for the next step. Thank you.
And I also invite Professor Chaturvedi. He is the professor in charge of Center for Continuing Education as well as former HOD. I request Professor Dunn to be here. I call upon the names one by one. Quickly come and collect the certificate. Okay. Some I'll give after that. I request Professor Rangaraj to hand over the certificates. Paurnami. Abhishek Kumar. Abhishek Kumar is there? Okay. Riya Singh. Padma CR next. Sir.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Padma CR. Patil.
Wish you all the best.
Next, Victor.
Wish you all the best in your work.
Limna Das.
Wish you all the best.
Next, Rafida.
Congratulations and wish you all the best.
Next, Jasita.
Congratulations. Wish you all the best. Thank you for participating.
Jacob.
Wish you all the best. Congratulations.
Srinivas Rangu.
Wish you all the best. Look at the camera. Thank you for participating. Congratulations. Wish you all the best.
I request Professor Chaturvedi to hand over some certificates. Rakhi. Alaka Shetty. Lakshmi Durga next. Seema Firdos. Atula Bhatt. Shubhakar. Sobi Abraham. Next, Ashwini. Ashwini is here. Nidin Saji. Shruti. Sandra Vinay Kumar. Swapna is here. Ashwini Kaute. Thank you, Professor Chaturvedi and Rangaraj sir. Okay, so anyway, we are kind of concluding this one. So our efforts since many years to conduct this Gian program is fruitful kind of. So we invited Professor Rangaraj from University of Calgary, Canada, and he is with us. Since 15 days we had discussions and many lectures from Professor Rangaraj. It was very informative and it was very we enjoyed a lot. Rather, we should be saying that we learned a lot here rather than enjoying that one. And on behalf of Gian, Ministry of Education, Government of India, and NITK Surathkal Department of ECE, I would like to thank him. And it's our honor to have you with us, sir. And then we would like to present a memento to Professor Rangaraj, a token of love, gratitude, and love. That's all. So,
Thank all of you.
Okay, I request Professor Chaturvedi to hand over this to Professor Rangaraj.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your time and
Students.
here.
Thank you.
But I am sure the motive with which you came over here, sir will feel its really fruits are surfacing down the line if you have some communication to sir and that can lead to some meaningful research.
Sure.
Then purpose of this particular program is really fulfilled. So I appeal all of you to do some meaningful research. Wish you all best of it.
Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you also.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll be starting, sir, after.
We'll have tea break now.
My flight is at 2:30.
Okay, be seated. You can come front so that I can talk to you very closely rather than. Okay, it seems everybody are leaving at 2 o'clock. I don't know how many of you are leaving at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, sir. 2
2 o'clock train is there. Okay. So then I have to finish. I just take 1 hour duration for this lecture, so that after that I leave. But what about the quiz and test?
You send it to us, sir. So how we can contact, sir? Tonight and we'll send it to you.
Online quiz. Let's see. I'll come back to you on that. What mode we want, etc. things. Okay, fine. We'll have this 1 hour session, and then followed by we'll see what to do like. Anyway, after that lunch break is there. Okay. So in my earlier lecture we were looking at kind of more math perspective of dealing the things, right, rather. So it may become it may become difficult to you. I don't know your actual background, but is it okay? You're able to understand certain things from there, right? Okay, fine. I'll just continue that discussion and put it in a very intuitive way rather than taking you into the too much of intricacies of mathematics. Okay, the first thing is we are all engineers, right? Many of us are engineers. So I don't go into the definition of engineering, etc. But engineer's job is to solve real world problems, right? So real world problems, how do you solve real world problems? So the first thing is you model that problem. Okay, the moment the model means it is expressing in terms of mathematics. Okay, it could be mathematical equation, maybe rule based, etc. things. Some kind of a statement. Rule means it's a mapping kind of a thing. So you have to express that in terms of some kind of a math. So it becomes either an equation, finally it becomes an algorithm to solve particular task, etc. will be there. Fine. So, but when you model certain physical reality per se, it is a representation. It is not an exact definition or exact of the reality. So that means we are expressing in math equations or whatever that may approximately represent or explain the phenomena. The moment when it's an approximation, there is an error. It is not the exact or the ideal, whatever we call like. There is an error. So when there is an error, I used to say to my students, engineers have to live with errors. Okay, engineers have to live with errors. In many cases, what we do is we minimize the error. Okay, what engineers can do is minimize the error. That's all. So you'll get a better performance, better efficiency, all these things you understand like that. So the first thing is put it in math equations and then try to solve. So the moment you model certain things, you get in terms of equations. Per se, it could be algebraic equations. So once the equation is there, you have to solve the equation. That's why for my students I'm saying, you have to solve certain equations. Okay, you cannot escape from that. Okay, so now if it is a scalar equation, per se, the moment equation becomes, there will be variables. Okay, variables means what? Something, suppose when you frame, when you form an equation, what becomes what? I mean, what is there is the variables are there. The variable means what? If you look at if you go into the history of our linear algebra and other things, they were looking. They were doing some kind of a trading, etc. things. They used to sell and buy in terms of not maybe at that time this currency and were not there. You buy certain horses by giving some cows or something like that. Kind of an exchange used to be there. Barter system. So like that you have to have variables. The variables you solve for the variables. So if it is a scalar equation, it is easy to solve. Okay, it is easy to solve means what? If I write like this, ax. If I write ax equals to b, it is easy to solve. Okay, what we write is x equal to b by a, we usually write. Okay, but what is this? This is a inverse b. A inverse b. So in the scalar case it is okay, but many times we have many equations. It is called system of equations, simultaneous equations. That means the solution satisfies all the equations simultaneously. So in that case, it becomes a set of equations. You know how given the set of equations, how to represent in mathematics form. That becomes your Ax equals to B. That is a matrix version. Okay. Per se, for example, if I write A1 x1 plus A2, A11, A12, I write x2 equal to B1, A21, x1 plus A22, x2 equal to B2, etc. This you can write in terms of mathematics. I need not have to write that. You know what it is. But in the case of a scalar, you know that you take it for advantage as a real field. There is a definition of 1 over A. Unless A is a 0, it's a problem there. Now the question of consistency comes here. I'll tell you what consistency is. In the scalar case, it is very easy. But what happens in the matrix case? Matrix case, this is A inverse B. You look at this and this, 1 over A and A inverse. In the scalar case, easy. Matrix, you have to have an inverse like, right? But inverting the matrix is not an easy thing. That's the problem. Inverting the matrix is not an easy thing, the first thing. The second thing is when there are so many variables here, these are all coupled, okay? x1, x2 is there, x1, x2 is there in each. They are coupled. Coupled you'll understand in a moment now. So the one way to solve the system means you have to uncouple the system. What do you mean by uncouple the system? Here the matrix is a full matrix like this entry, this entry, this entry is there. Entries are there, non-zeros. Okay, suppose the entries are such that you have something like a diagonal system. These two are zeros. You can directly read out the solution. You can directly read out the solution. No need to solve like. Okay. So now the question is, can I convert a given matrix A, which is a full matrix, means coupled in the sense every entry is there. Can I convert this into a diagonal matrix? That's one important problem. So why do you diagonalize? Because you can read out the solution. It makes our life easy. Okay, that's why entire linear algebra we talk about diagonalization of matrices. Okay. The system becomes difficult because the variables are coupled. That's the one. If it is 0, x1 is b1 by a11. Like directly you can read the solution like that. What is consistency of a system means? What is that? So for a system of equations, suppose if the solution exists, okay, it is consistent. The solution doesn't exist, it is inconsistent. For example, if I take, I just derive from this, okay? Suppose Ax equals to 0. Ax equals to 0. What happens when A is 0? What happens when A is non-zero? Two cases are there. The other thing, what happens? Ax equal to B. Okay, suppose A is 0. What happens if B is non-zero? A is 0, B is non-zero. Okay, there are inconsistencies. That means something non-zero is not equal to 0. Mathematically wrong, that is correct. Suppose in this case particularly, suppose 0x equal to 0 I write. Okay, what is the solution? Can you imagine the solution there? Ax equals to 0 is the, what do we call? We call the homogeneous solution of the system, right? In a more math perspective, homogeneous solution. And if otherwise Ax equals to B is a non-homogeneous system. Okay, in that case, suppose we are all dealing with these problems in the real field. Real means this number, real number field. Per se, all coefficients are reals for me now. Okay, so 0x equals to 0, you take the equation, right? What happens to x? What is the solution? Can you imagine? Just you take any, including 0, any real number, it satisfies that equation. So the solution space we call, the set of all solution we call solution space. Okay, the solution space is the entire real space. In this case, anyway, it is a one variable, so R1. Entire real line is the solution space for this. If I substitute 7, it also satisfies. Minus 3 also satisfies. So every real number is a solution to that one. Okay, that's the case. So there could be cases, okay, that's a very scalar, 1 by 1 system I used to call that. 1 by 1 system. This is 2 by 2 system. You can probably increase the order, 3 by 3. Sometimes it is a rectangular, sometimes it is a tall matrix, sometimes it becomes a, what is that, broad or whatever matrix, depending on the situation. Okay, so now, okay, probably you also understand by this, suppose Ax equals to B is our general case. It's a general case. Now Ax equals to 0 is the homogeneous system corresponding to the non-homogeneous, right? Now what happens, see here, this x, suppose if x satisfies Ax equals to 0, x is a solution, correct, x is a solution. Now I am talking about set of all x, okay, such that Ax equals to 0. Okay, this becomes a set for me, this is a solution, this is a solution set for homogeneous. Homogeneous means, you understand, the B is no, you make it 0, 0, 0, 0. Instead of solving Ax equals to B, Ax equals to 0 you are solving. That is homogeneous. Now the interesting thing what I want here is, you have understood vector spaces, right? You have understood R, R2, R3, etc. Euclidean planes. So what happens in this case? We know okay, I can draw a line in this plane, right? I can draw a line. I can draw the line anywhere. Here, here, or anywhere. Okay, there are particular lines you could see here, like they pass through the origin. They pass through the origin. You draw a line such that passes through the origin. Okay. Now, there is a notion known as a subspace. We know that R2 is a vector space. I am stressing here R2 because we have more visualization, things like that. I can draw something and then you can interpret, you have more intuition for R2 like that. So, but a single line if I draw, it becomes a subset of R2. Subset of R2. To call it subspace, we said there should be an origin in the set so that it becomes a vector space. Origin is a must like. Okay. So in that sense what I am saying is, suppose this is your plane, if I write like this a line, precisely if you ask, this is not a vector space because it is not passing through the origin. There is no origin. There is no origin. So for it to be a vector space, I have to pass it through the origin. Okay, both are lines you call linear, etc. in your system perspective, etc. Right? But this is vector space because origin is there. This is not a vector space, but it is shifted by some other vector. That is called affine space actually, affine space. So here most of, okay, a line can be an affine or a vector space. Okay, when we deal with systems and all pattern recognition problems, everything, no? What we suppose in the case of linear systems and linear classifiers, we deal with these type of lines. Anyway, what is a classifier? I just connect here. Classifier is nothing but a function. There are two classes per se. Classify, I have to draw a boundary between the two classes. It becomes a line or it becomes some curve, any curve. If it is a line, it is a linear classifier. It need not have to pass through origin all the time. But affine is okay, accepted. It is a cousin of vector space. Fine. This is a vector space. This is called homogeneous system. This is non-homogeneous system. You know that the solution space of homogeneous forms a vector space. That means 0 is a solution to this. If I substitute A into 0, it is 0. So 0 is a solution. 0 is in this set. Right? Now, Ax equals to B. Per se, let us go to the very scalar case. A is non-zero. B is non-zero. If I substitute x equals to 0, will it satisfy? No. So origin is not in the solution space of that. Okay, that means the solution to non-homogeneous system is lifted. Lifted what? Lifted, I mean, you have the solution to homogeneous system that is being lifted. That's why you call solution of a general system of equation is homogeneous system. Solution of homogeneous system plus particular integral and all you call in your differential equations. Here it's a particular solution. It's a particular solution. So one is a vector space, the other is an affine space. Okay, this is how it is. Now, we said if it is a diagonal matrix, you can directly read out the solution like. Now the general question is, can any matrix be converted to diagonal matrix? This is a very important question in linear algebra. Can you convert a given matrix into a diagonal matrix? Usually matrices, there are square matrices and rectangular matrices. For the time being, let us keep apart from the rectangular case. At least take very nice square matrices. Okay? So can we convert any square matrix into a diagonal matrix is the question. Now let us look at some diagonal structures, how to go about that like, okay? For example, given a system of linear equations, what do we need? We need simple systems. Now system means what? It is a matrix. Matrix, okay? System is a matrix. Now we look at what are simple matrices. What are simple systems? Equivalently, what are simple matrices? Okay. So what are simple matrices? You know various types of matrices, right? Matrix means arrangement of numbers and rows and columns like that. Okay. A simple matrix is like, it may not be useful, okay? It's a zero matrix. Per se in 2 by 2 I write a simple, what is there? 0, 0. But it's not useful. Kind of a degenerate case, whatever you call. Next simple is what? Next simple is, okay, not a simple matrix is some A, B, C, D. All are non-zero. We want entries to be 0, but not all. See, there is something. We don't want all entries to be 0. We want some entries to be 0. Many times we call that as a sparse. Sparse, right? Okay, we want a small number of entries which are non-zero. Okay, like that. So, next simple case could be a triangular kind of a case. From this to this. This is useless kind of. I can have 1, 2, 0 and 3 like. It's a triangular matrix. It is more simple because if you have an equation corresponding to this, you know that you can read out the solution for this, back substitute and get the solution. Right? So triangle. Triangle could be either like this or you can have this. One could be forward substitution, one could be backward substitution you get correspondingly. Okay. Next simple case is your diagonal matrix. A and D probably like this, you write. Diagonal case. You know, diagonal is a very simple case because you are directly reading out the solution. Okay. There could be other levels of simple matrices like a symmetric matrix. 1, 2. How do you write symmetry? Okay, I can be a bit more appealing example because otherwise you say that all main diagonals are equal. Like this is a symmetry case. Next simple structure is symmetry. Okay. If you have a symmetric matrix, you have got something great. That's why all the time we strive to get symmetric matrices. Okay, in our Professor Rangaraj also, in one of the lectures he was giving examples of if it is non-symmetric matrix, he used to discard that. while finding some features in biomedical applications. Okay, so more structure, more simple. Life is easy. Life is easy, so that you need not have to solve in this case. Here life is easy because somehow you can easily get the solution. There are techniques. If it's highly coupled, it is difficult, right? Now, from the linear algebraic perspective, there are procedures to solve given system of equations using your row operations, we call, right? Elementary row operations. You might have heard elementary row operations. There's a row, you have to do elementary operations. You just tell that what they are. What are elementary row operations? Row interchange, multiply a non-zero scalar to a row, then to the second row or whatever, the next to the another row, you add a scaled version of the other row. Okay, like that. These are operations. These are linear operations. Linear algebra, everything is linear, like linear operations. Then what happens? So given matrix, so it is something like this, which is not any of these cases. You try to convert that into these types of. If possible, it becomes a diagonal case like this. Otherwise, you will get a triangular, you are happy, right? You are happy. That's why that is called your echelon forms. Something non-zero, make everything below zero, etc. There are two things. One is echelon, another one is a reduced echelon. In the reduced echelon, you try to make it an identity type of thing. 1, you have to make that entry 1 below 0. Okay, like that. So, as far as the matrices are concerned, if you make it in given matrix into this type of, this is kind of an echelon form. Okay, echelon form. Okay. Here is more nice because you got a diagonal. Finally, if you can do 1 0 0 1, wonderful. In this case, the matrix is invertible if it is a square and like this. That's how you compute inverse, right? What you do to compute inverse? You have an appended matrix A, B, C, D. Here what do you do? How do you compute the inverse? So you make this matrix 1 1 1 1. The other entries become the inverse of that. Right? Fine. So that's how we do. So we don't directly compute inverse. The point number 1 is like, you don't compute inverse like whatever we talked, what is that? Adjacent and determinant method of this one, or a Kramer's rule of type. Okay, even the higher dimensions or a higher order, it becomes tedious problem. You have to use elementary row operations to solve these type of problems. Okay, so you have got at least what is a simple matrix, what is not a simple matrix. Okay, what is a simple system, what is not a simple system. It can be a 1 by 1 system. You understand, 1 by 1 system, 2 by 2 system, 2 by 3 system is also possible, all these. Okay, so what we do is, from the given, I call this a difficult matrix. Difficult in the sense, to work out that is difficult. Otherwise nothing like. Converting a system into a simple system. Now, when you convert a system to a simple system, you should not alter the solution of that system, right? The solution should be intact. You should not alter the solution, otherwise it becomes a different system. We call equivalent system. Okay? Given a matrix, can I have an equivalent matrix? Given a system, can I have an equivalent system? But the second system is easy to solve. That's what we are doing. We are converting one problem into another problem. Solution is the same, both cases. But the other problem is easy to solve. That's what it is. So, converting a given matrix A into B, to some B. B is very easy to solve. In a particular case, can I get B diagonal? What is that? Identity matrix. It's asking too much, like asking too much. Fine. In some cases, you get. Suppose if a matrix is invertible, and the consistency is what probably Dunn might have told you. When AX equal to B, you know that given matrix has rows, columns, okay? Set of all linear combination of rows becomes a row space. He might have told, I don't know. You know how to make linear combination. Row is a vector, column is also a vector. Now you can think of making linear combination of rows, right? That becomes a row space. Making linear combination of columns, that becomes a column space. So in particular here what happens is, it can be shown, if B lies in the column space of A, it has a solution. It has a solution. If B lies in the column space of A, it has a solution. So it is consistent. Okay, the another thing here comes is the rank of a matrix. That's more important. Like, okay, rank means what? Like, for a matrix, what is rank? Okay. How do you, given a matrix, how do you find the rank? That's another question, right? If I give you a matrix, what is its rank? Okay. Now, when I say Ax equals to B, it's a linear system, right? It's a mapping. What is mapping here? Suppose, every matrix, there is X, right? X is the per se. For every X given A, there is B. Okay? So B, suppose B is like in the output, X is the input to this one. Like. So this is in, X is here for me. Okay? Where is B? B is here. So what is the transformation? A is this. Okay? It transforms X to B. Right? Now, what is in our general set theory, etc., whatever we studied in +2 levels for engineering students, I'm saying, you are not considering these two are vector spaces, but there are some sets. Some sets. As you mature, what happens? These two, domain and codomain, we call, no? Domain and codomain, they become the vector spaces. So this is a set, right? The vector space is a set with a structure. This has a vector space with it's a set with a structure. These two become vector spaces. The moment there is a vector space, there is a 0 here in the domain. What happens to A into 0? 0. So this is the test case. What is a linear system? It's like an acid test. 0, if you put as input, the output becomes a 0. You might have seen that in your linear systems laboratory, resistor networks, etc. things. If you apply 0 input voltage or whatever, you should get 0 output. That is the test for linearity. That's obvious because you see here, if I apply 0, the output is 0. If I apply 0, output is something else here in this case. This is non-linear. This is non-linear. That's why usually we confuse in the interview and other things, Ax plus B. That B is causing the non-linear. That's affine. Most of your classifiers you write in terms of perceptrons, right? A naught plus A into W as a dot product or whatever. All are affines. Affines. That means I just try to relate that to the classifier also here because that's your interest also, right? Suppose this is our feature space, right? Suppose height and weight of people, like maybe a gender wise, if I say male and a female. Feature is what? Height and weight per se. So height and weight are the two variables, right? Height and weight are the two variables. You start collecting data, right? This is height, this is weight, serial number. Okay, you start collecting data. This is measurement. Okay, 1, 2, you want your 100 measurements. That means 100 people you have to collect height and weight. This is your data collection now. This itself may be a feature, okay, height and weight. So data, height and weight is there. So height and weight are the variables now. These are the features, right? So you can, if you have time and patience, you can have 1,000. You should have, no? These days big data, and for every deep neural network and all, we need lot of data. And here also it is growing, not just 2 features is sufficient. Just for illustration purpose and right on a plane I am taking 2 feature. You have so many feature, like thousands. In deep neural network and all feature, what is that numbers? Like that much. Okay. Now, I want to just go to the covariance matrix there. That's why I'm just relating this. Height and weight as a feature, we start collecting the numbers. We have per se 100. I have selected 100 people and got the measurement. Now I want to have a covariance matrix here. Okay. Now height and weight being variables, I can do some statistics on this. I can calculate mean height, I can calculate mean weight, I can subtract them from each of this one. That is called centering, mean removing in statistics, right? Mean removed. I can remove the mean from them, both of them, remove the mean. Now, is there a correlation between height and weight? Usually when you choose characteristic variables for measurement, one thing is you at least try to measure independent variables as much as possible. But in reality, variables are dependent to some extent. Okay. Suppose, what I'm saying is, there's a height you are measuring. You are not measuring other variable which gives the information of height. That becomes a redundant. We don't want that. We go for a complementary type of or such kind of a feature, which is not height itself. Suppose if I measure some other variable which gives the height information inside, it's of not much use in as far as classification is concerned. So we usually try to get more or less independent features. Getting independent is on the document only. It's in reality it's not possible. So height and weight. Now there could be some relation between height and weight. Okay, when there are 2 variables, I can look at correlation between height and height. Height is linearly dependent on height, right? Height is, suppose if I say height, it is 1 time height, right? This is a scalar here. Height depends on height, so correlation is 1. Height and weight, they may be correlated, maybe something like 0.5, 0.6, 0.2, I don't know, depending on the circumstance. There could be a relation between height and weight, so that you get a correlation measure there. Now you have a covariance matrix, that is, what is height and weight. You have to measure height and weight. So it is what? Height and height, maybe you get 1. Weight and weight, you may get 1. This may be height is related to weight, more or less fine. If it's a tall, your weight is more, that is said, right? So it may be 0.7. So if weight and height, the order is immaterial in this case, it is 0.7. You see here, you get a symmetric matrix. Okay. Correlation matrix, correlation which is measured from the covariance matrix here. So there are certain things in probability. We say correlation, there is a correlation as a concept is there. Covariance is also a concept, more of confusion like, but correlation is measured using covariance. Covariance is a concept actually. Correlation, you remove the mean, 0 mean it becomes. It's a very simple relation between that. But factually what we have to say is, correlation is measured using covariance. So this is a covariance matrix. Covariance matrix becomes a what is that? Square matrix, because it depends on the number of variables, and it is a symmetric matrix. I said, the moment you get a symmetric matrix, you can solve certain things, you can do certain things. It is easy. Okay? So it is easy. So this is covariance, because I need this for PC and other things, kind of, that's why I introduced that. So every data, even though there are 100 measurements, you will get 2 by 2 covariance matrix, because you are measuring only 2 variables. You can write this. Suppose if I call this as a data matrix D. I want 2 by 2 matrix covariance. What should I do? Suppose this is 100 by 2. You know the relation covariance, how to write, like, for example, I want 2 by 2. D transpose D is what? D transpose is 2 by 100. 100 by 2. You get 2 by 2 matrix. Corresponding your statistics, n or n minus 1. Averaging you have to do. N minus 1 gives you called unbiased, etc. Let us not go into that. Either you divide by n or you divide by n minus 1, so that becomes a covariance matrix, right? So once you get covariance matrix, okay, you can do something else now. Okay, so we were here where 0 input gives you 0 output. I was looking at matrix from the system perspective or a mapping perspective, right? So there is also the moment A is there, there is A transpose. There is A transpose, right? A transpose is also a matrix which maps what to what. Suppose A is m by n. A is m by n matrix. What is a mapping? What is this vector space? What is this vector space? Suppose everything is real setting. Okay, A into x equal to b, right? A is m by n. What is x? What is its size? For it to be compatible, matrix vector multiplication, right? This should be n rows, 1 column. What is b? M rows, 1 column. Okay. So if I say this is x, x is n by n vector. X is n vector means what? This is what? This is Rn in the real case. B is in the m vector. This is Rm space. So every matrix Amn maps Rn to Rm. What happens A transpose? A transpose maps Rm to Rm. So you have to identify these type of mappings. Okay, so you want, okay, I don't want, okay, we were discussing row space, column space. There is something called null space of a matrix. What is null space of a matrix? What is null space? We know Ax equals to B is our non-homogeneous system. I make Ax equals to 0. That means if you have any vector x, A maps x to 0. You give any vector, including 0 vector. 0 maps to 0. Any non-zero vector you give to the x that maps to 0, then x, the set of all x, the solution, right? This is a solution. This becomes a null space of a matrix. Okay, null space of the matrix. The another one is range space. What do you mean by range of a function? Suppose f of x is a function. X is in the domain. For each x you get f of x. F of x is in the range. It is in the codomain space. Okay, it's a range. So Ax equals to b. B is in the range space. B is in the range space. Now what I want range space means set of all b I want, such that there is an x for each b, right? That becomes a range space. Now, okay, there's a null space. So there is a range space. How should I just keep R? Maybe I'm using the notation, right? Null space is a subspace of the domain. Range space is a subspace of the, range space is subset of the codomain there. Codomain. But what happens is, when this is a vector space, null space also becomes a vector space. We can show that, but I am not going to the mathematical detail. All these become vector spaces. That's what my point is. It's a matrix which links between two vector spaces. Okay, so that is there. Okay, now the moment it is a vector space, we can talk about their basis and dimension, right? Every vector space has a basis and dimension, right? So if null space is a vector space, it has a dimension and basis. Range space also has dimension and basis. Okay. We call null space dimension is nullity. That's called, a term is there, nullity. Okay? The dimension of the range space is rank. So what is rank of a matrix? As far as vector space is concerned, for every matrix A, there is a range space. Range space has the dimension that becomes the rank of the matrix. So there is a fundamental theorem in linear algebra. It is called rank nullity theorem, right? What is rank nullity theorem? I'll just write this. Suppose nullity is something you call nu or whatever the way. It's a number, right? Plus rank, row. This is equal to number of columns, n, or it is the dimension of the domain. Domain is Rn. Dimension of the domain is n. Number of columns, that is almost. Okay, how do you get the rank from the given matrix? How do you solve for rank per se? If I give you a matrix, how do you solve for rank? Again, you have to go back to the echelon form. Echelon form. So in the echelon form, suppose given a matrix is there. Okay, you do some first non-zero column is there, make it 1 in the reduced case. It may be some same 1, it may be 1 and 1, something like that. After that you make it 0, etc., etc., you will get. Right? What is rank? Rank is nothing but the number of non-zero rows in the echelon form. That happens to be the same as number of pivots. If you know a little bit more linear algebra, that becomes. Okay? So now, if you call row rank and column rank separately, row rank and column rank become the same, that becomes the rank of a matrix. And also you know that if it is a 3 by 4 matrix, so rank is less than 3, less than or equal to 3, 3 by 4. Otherwise, if I have 4 by 2 per se, 4 by 2, I have only 2 columns. Rank should not exceed 2 here. Right? Rank should not exceed 2. Okay. But another case of, as I was talking about simple matrices, you can generate matrices which are simple, that is nothing but one rank matrices. If a matrix has a rank 1, it has a nice structure, it becomes, how do you generate rank 1 matrices is by the outer product. You know the inner product is a dot product between the two vectors. Do outer product. What is outer product? How do you do? Suppose given vector x is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Your suppose another y is 5, 6, 7. You know x dot, rather it is inner product. Okay. What is inner product of x and y? It is your dot product. One of the inner product is dot product. You have x transpose y. You get a one scalar, right? Now I want outer product. Outer product. Here it is x y transpose. You get a matrix. That matrix is one rank matrix. For any outer product you generate, it becomes a one rank matrix. One rank matrix, you might have heard of rank deficient. Maybe it becomes a more advanced linear algebra for them. Rank deficient system, like that means not a full rank. Okay, what is full rank then? Suppose I have a square. Rank is defined for both square as well as rectangular matrices. It's not just for a square, like I can have 3 by 2, 2 by 3, 1 by, I'll test you. What is the rank of, what is the rank of this one? By definition or by the procedure that we used to find rank, you do echelon form on this. This row is dependent on this row, twice this. So this is dependent on this. Here also it is thrice this. I can just do this. You get 0, 0. You'll end up in only this. What is the rank? 1. Rank is 1. Right, like that. Similarly, if it is like this, what do you do? Here m by n, m is 1. There are so many columns are there. Okay. Now I want what? How do you say this? What is the rank of this? It should be less than or equal to 1, right? It should be less than or equal to 1. Right? So since there is a non-zero row, rank is not a 0 here. It has to be 1. It has to be 1. What is zero rank matrix then? Can you give an example of a zero rank? Maybe very degenerate kind of just testing you whether you have understood or not. Like whether what is the use you do, we don't know that. You consider zero matrix. Zero matrix. The moment I put one thing, very simple matrix is what? Very simple matrix. Only one entry. That is a scalar. What is the rank of this? 1. Rank of that is 1. That's all. Like that. Okay, fine. So now rank nullity theorem is over. Now what I have to say? How much time I have? I'll just give you dimensionality reduction. We had 2 feature vector, right? 2 feature vector. What is the dimension of this space? Okay, you want to plot this data in some Euclidean space. What Euclidean space you plot? That's the first requirement now. The moment you have data, people say that plot and see, plot and observe. Okay, how do you plot? You have 100 data of height variable and weight variable is there. By convention, what do? We choose variables on the axis. Height, weight, plot that. You will get some scatter plot. Each is a point. It's a 2 vector. X and Y, H and W. Something like that you may get. You may get a cloud of something like this. Data. Fine. Now, this is a 2-dimensional data. Right? 2-dimension. Dimension you understand. These are the dimensions. 2-dimension is that. Now, dimensionality reduction means what? I have to reduce the dimension. From 2-dimension, can I get 1 dimension? And how do we get and for what? Etc. Maybe, very loosely speaking, to get 1 dimension, you can discard this per se. You lose information. You can also discard this one and you retain this, either of that. You lose information. But here I don't want to lose that much information, but smartly have somehow reduce the dimension. What do we do is the thing. For that, what we do is, we have covariance matrix from the data, right? Covariance matrix. Okay, we have to diagonalize the covariance matrix. Okay, there your eigenvalues, eigenvectors comes into picture like. Okay, I'll just tell you I don't go into the math aspect of that because that may not be interesting to you. What I do is, you understand projection, right? Projection is a concept in vector space again. A one vector is projected onto the other vector. Okay, it is, suppose I have one vector, I have another vector, I have to project, suppose this is A, this is B vector, project B onto the A. How do you project? This is not an oblique projection, but it's an orthogonal projection. Okay, this is a projection. Projection is a scalar. I make it vector by unit vector in the direction of A. Okay, you know that this is theta, you know cos theta. Cos theta is what? This is adjacent, hypotenuse. Cos theta you know. So you get a nice relation. A dot B is what? Length A, length B, cos theta is the expression you get. Depending on that, you say whether angle is 90 degree, the dot product is 0, because cos 90 is 0. right? Cos 90 is 0. Maybe I'll ask you a quick question. I have this vector. I have this big B vector. How do you project this onto this? How do you project this? What happens? The moment when I give you one vector, it represents the entire line here, right? This is a space in which this is there. Okay, this is in the same direction of this vector. So I have to have a projection. This is your projection. In the unit vector direction is what? In the unit direction. A vector in the direction of the unit vector. Right? Like that. The other one is your simple this one. Suppose I give you one vector here. The other vector is this. What is the projection here? You are projecting a vertical vector onto this. Projection is just this. Point has 0 length. Point has 0 length. The projection is 0. Projection is 0. Okay. Fine. So, you understand projection. Once you understood projection, suppose I'll tell you, I'll give you this example. You have some data here, 1 point. You measured one person height and weight. I want to project this on, this is height, this is weight. The definition of this point is it's nothing but projection along H and W axis, right? So if this is a vector, you know that how to project this onto H. Okay, this is your height. Okay, you project onto this is your weight, right? Same principle I use. Now what I do is, instead of, this is my original, I want to project this onto something like this line. I'll give you one extra line, okay? This is a subspace also because it passes through the origin. I want to project this vector per se, A vector, onto this line. Again orthogonal projection. Project orthogonally because this angle is 90 degrees. So that given a point, I can project. By definition, the coordinate is nothing but projection onto the standard axis. Otherwise, I can project it onto any line. Maybe a vector space, maybe a affine line also. Affine means somewhere in the line. Okay. Now, you see this cloud of data points. It is in 2 dimensions. But as you said in our Professor Raj's lecture also, he was talking about principal axis. Suppose this one is there. What is the principal axis? Is this, he said. Okay, there's an intuition there. Here, what is the principal axis? Just without going into the eigen and other things, I'm trying to get an intuitively principal axis. Like, you can have something like this, right? Where, okay, this is a variation of the, variation means a spread. The data spread is that. Okay, this is data spread. Now, if you take this as a principal axis, you see the spread this much. That means more variation is there. More variation means more information. Maybe more energy also, square term. More energy is there. Right. Look at the other orthogonal axis per se. Okay, but in that case actually that has to pass through the origin because I'm just making a simple diagram here. Precisely that has to pass through because your principal axes are from the eigenspaces. The moment eigenspace is there, you can have a vector which passes through the origin. Vector space is there. Okay, like that. The other structure which is orthogonal to this, that happens in where? Covariance matrix, which is symmetric matrix. You know the eigenproperty of symmetric matrix. Eigenvalues are real. Eigenvectors corresponding to non-zero eigenvalues are orthogonal, distinct eigenvalues. Eigenvectors corresponding to distinct eigenvalues are orthogonal. It's very nice for a symmetric case. That's why symmetric matrix is always diagonalizable. So you can convert symmetric matrix into a simple system. It's a diagonal system. right? So in this, so principal axis means eigenaxis. This axis may be the eigenaxis corresponding to the largest eigenvalue. This may be to lambda 2. Here lambda 1, I put this greater than lambda 2 here. Okay. This is eigen corresponding to lambda. Eigenvector E I write, E lambda 2 is maybe. Now, you know the variation along this axis is this much, very less. So wherever variation is less, probably you can discard that axis. Instead of discarding either H or a W, in this axis you are. Otherwise you are discarding along H or a W axis. Here I have got a new axis, the eigenbase coordinates. I can discard, I know that this energy is more, I don't want to discard this because I lose more information. But here the energy is less or the variance is less, so that I can discard along E lambda 2. Okay, suppose there is a point here, a data point is here. How do you project this onto the new axis? Orthogonal projection. Okay, so you have to project onto this one. The variation is this much. Okay, you project onto this, the variation is very small here. So that what I am saying is, on the new system, you get again two components. One is this, I'll call, I need something, my data, DL, some D along lambda 1, D along lambda 2 I call. Again you have D and D lambda 1 and D lambda 2 for each points. Right? Here also we had, the numbers were there. But what I do is, since this is a principal axis which preserves more energy, I'll retain this. That means corresponding to this entry I'll have all this. But I'll make this 0. I'll make this 0. Right? That can do. Component. So you are reducing from 2 dimension to 1 dimension. So you have reduced. In the SVM and other cases for solving nonlinear classifiers, usually to make classifiers linear in the higher dimension, you do the other way. You go from lower dimension to the higher dimension. Okay? One is coming from higher dimension to the lower dimension, dimensionality reduction, compression, whatever. There could be loss is there, but loss is minimal in this case because we have chosen eigenaxis instead of discarding any of the H and W. Okay. The other in SVM and other classifiers is to make the classifier linearly to make the patterns linearly separable. For example, again I have a feature axis. There are some features like this. What is classifier? You have to have certain parabolic function like this, quadratic. Quadratic is a nonlinear function. Can I use now the question is, can I still use a linear classifier? What the trick you have to do is, you may go from here only 2 axes is there, 3, 4, okay. Suppose you have X and Y. X is a feature, Y is a feature, maybe XY product is a feature. Right? So you'll get another axis where what happens in the third dimension, this may becomes this and this may becomes X, where a linear plane can separate those two. It's linear separability there. For that purpose we go for a higher dimension. Okay. A more example that gives a feeling is this. Suppose a classifier can be this function, right? A circle. Circle is a nonlinear, right? You might have data points. One data point is here. The other could be this. I have to design a classifier. That means what? I have to design a function. That's a circle. That circle is learnt from the data. Data is plus on that circle, small, O. Okay? That's what learning is. What is learning? given the data points, I need to learn a function, circle, so that I can classify. So here, the classifier is a circle here, but circle is a nonlinear function there. But if you go to the higher dimension, maybe, for the illustration I write higher dimension, these circles may be here, these may be somewhere plus, so that I can have a linear separation between the two. Linear in higher dimension, what happens? On a plane it becomes a line, on three-dimensional it can be a plane. It is called hyperplane classifiers. That's what it is. Okay. So, given a classification problem, what do? You collect the data. Maybe to reduce the data, if you use PCA, principal component analysis, this is PCA, you can go for a eigenbasis kind of a representation and discard depending on the variance, so that you can reduce the dimension. That's one thing. So other things is you can go to the higher dimension for classification. In SVMs and other things you use this technique, so that is there. Many times what we try to do is we design a simple linear classifier using, okay, suppose if I want to use a piecewise linear somehow I can design probably, but at point what happens is I have to design like this piecewise. You know that for any curvature a tangent approximation can be done. If you have infinite tangents, exactly the curvature you get. Same trick here, like you can have many linear classifiers so that you can get whatever the function that you want. Okay, that's what PCA and this is. I didn't go into the math detail for this, how to get in this one. There is a diagonalization theorem is there. So one theorem is like every symmetric matrix can be diagonalizable at least. So that is nothing but your called spectral theorem, also in your linear algebraic terms. The spectral theorem, more generalized version, becomes your singular value decomposition. So using singular value decomposition per se, any matrix, here the particular case is symmetric matrix. Symmetric is a diagonal matrix. If I have any rectangular matrix, I want to diagonalize this. I'll just give you an illustration what that means, okay? And then I'll stop. Suppose this is a tall matrix. Depending on your underdetermined, overdetermined, you get these two cases, right? Forget about the diagonal system. Now I want to convert this into a diagonal matrix. How do I do? And how many diagonal elements are there? Per se, this is 6 rows and 4 columns. You may say there's a 4 by 4 one thing I can get like that. May work. But actually what is happening there? Here it is 4 by 6, 4 and 6. Again you say 4 by 4 is a square system like. But actually what happens is, in both the cases the link is a rank. Okay, link is a rank. Rank is a number which is less than or equal to minimum of the rows or columns. Okay? Only retain that much of rows and columns. Okay, remaining maybe zeros. Okay? So what happens is, suppose here, even though this is 6 by 4, rank is 3 per se. 3. Okay? Here I also have to rank order the eigen values. If I say lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3 like. Okay, there are things like that. So I can have this entry, this entry, this entry per se. They come at this one. Okay, here I have to make it diagonal so that these entries are present. Okay, even then this becomes 0, these becomes 0, these become 0. Okay, only this entry will be there. So like that, diagonal, because other entries are zeros here. So any rectangular matrix can be diagonalized using SVD. There you need left and right kind of what Professor Dunn was telling inverses like eigenvalue, eigenvectors like it is there. So that you need two side-by-side matrices so that you can do the diagonalization. That's very interesting because probably that's the total, as Professor Dunn said yesterday, the entire linear algebra least square. The least square is that one only, and pseudo inverse is what? Derived from this one only. Okay, pseudo inverse gives you the general solution, like, okay, whether it is square system, full rank, or a rectangular system, rank deficient. Okay, pseudo inverse is one solution which is very optimal solution. Okay, very optimal solution for everything. It answers sort of every question there. The one answer is pseudo inverse. That's all. So if you know pseudo inverse, you have inverted the matrix. I'll come to the first point there. Our aim is to get 1 by A type of a thing, inverse. So you got the matrix inverse somehow, so that you are solving for variables x. Okay, so I started with that, I end with that. Okay, any question? So in between there are so many things, as Dunn told earlier also, it takes more than 30 hours of lectures to tell every point and make you understand step by step, like it's a one full course. So but anyway, we have ran through this. Fine, I'll stop here. Any question?